Good afternoon from Baltimore, and welcome to my virtual classroom this year. It is an honor to get to share with you all today a bit about what God has taught me throughout my career as an educator in the past 10 years. I started teaching sixth graders at the ripe age of 22, and frankly was very naive to all that the job demanded. After many days and months of feeling like an ineffective teacher, it started to wear on me. I realized a big part of why it felt so terrible to be bad at my job was because I was in it for my own honor. I wanted the accolades. I wanted to be the best teacher. I wanted students to be magically transformed just by being in my classroom and being my student. I wanted the glory and the honor for myself. And when I didn't receive that, I was left feeling very empty and unfulfilled. Now, God knew that this is a lesson I would need to learn over and over and over throughout my career. Us humans are so prone to forget. It's for this same reason that God had Israel set up a memorial of stones to never forget his powerful work of splitting the Jordan River for Israel to reach the promised land. He knows us so well. He has continually humbled me and brought me back to the truth that I need to hear, that he alone deserves the throne. My fulfillment in my job comes from living and working for him and not for myself. My life, and yes, even including my job, is to bring him honor. In fact, he brought me to this career to bring him honor. So I ask you, in your career, in your daily work, do you find that you want to bring yourself honor, that you want to be honored, or do you find that you want God to be honored? Part of bringing him honor in my career is seeing myself through God's eyes. So in Genesis 1, it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them." I know we've heard this so many times before, but just take a minute to really let that sink in. Our God, the creator of the universe, created all of us in his image. He created us to display his character and bring him glory. Why would he do that? Is it because he's narcissistic? No, not at all. It's because he loves the world. Yes, we know that God so loved the world that he sent his one and only son to die for our sins. But also, God so loved the world that he had creation reflect him. He created us so that we could be spread around the world as his little mirrors to show the world who God is, even as imperfectly as we may do that. God made us who we are so we could make his identity known to the world. And that truly is an honor. So, yes, we are born as image bearers, but we have to work really hard to project God's image instead of our own. We often default to just reflect our own image. When we heed the call to seek after Jesus, we are transformed more and more into his image to reflect his character. Think about a refiner's fire. The more metal is burned and refined, the better it reflects an image. We are renewed daily when we give up our own desires and ask God for his will to be done. We are refined through clinging to and trusting in Jesus through trials. When we are refined by God and renewed daily in Jesus, we are able to reflect his image more and more. In Colossians 3:10, it says, "Put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator." There are some character traits that are unique to God because God is God and we are not. But there are many character traits of God that he specifically calls us to reflect, both as image bearers and as Jesus seekers. So just as God is holy, loving, good, just, this list is just going to keep on going, merciful, gracious, faithful, patient, truthful, and wise, so are we called to be. As an educator, I've been challenged to reflect God in all of these ways. And I ask you, what does it look like in your own career, in your own daily work, to reflect God's love, his justice? What does it look like to reflect his mercy, his grace, his faithfulness, his patience? Most of these traits are fairly countercultural. So just think of how much of an impact we can make if we truly lived out the call to reflect our Maker in these ways. Last year, many of my fifth grade math students were struggling to perform second grade math tasks, such as adding two-digit numbers together. I wanted to send an invitation to those students' families to, one, let them know the truth of their child's academic struggles, and two, to offer my time volunteering every morning with their children before school to help them grow in those areas. When I presented the letter to my boss, he said it wasn't nice to tell the families that their student was below grade level, and he encouraged me not to say it at all. I thought about how much of an injustice this was to these families. Their children had reached the last year of elementary school, and many of them had never been told of their child's needs. Without accurate and truthful information, these families hadn't been given the full picture or been afforded the opportunity to have agency and act on those needs. This is, unfortunately, a common injustice in educational settings, especially for a specific population of students. The expectations are often lowered, or accurate information isn't shared with kids or families out of pity, or out of thinking that maybe their families wouldn't do anything about it, or out of fear of being mean. One beautiful thing of God is that he is completely just and wholly merciful at the same time. So I didn't just feel called to tell these families that their child was struggling and leave it at that, but I also felt called to reflect his mercy. I shared the truth with these families, and I shared it in love. I told them, look, here are the areas, this is where your kid's at. Here are the areas where your child has an extreme need, but also here I am alongside you and your child to put in the work and the care and the time to devote to helping them improve. Those students were with me every morning before school, much of the school year. And that way we were able to work together to help them grow and also to experience joy in that growing together as well. I became closely connected with those families. And when COVID hit, some of those families ran into hard times, and they were able to share with me a lot of their family's needs because I had built that relationship with them. I was able to connect them to food resources and employment opportunities and mental health resources. When families lost a family member, I was able to pray with them and share prayers with them. When students felt impassioned by the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in the spring, I was able to join them and invite them to Black Lives Matter student marches that were happening around the city. When we reflect God's justice and his mercy, we show the world what it feels like to be held accountable and to be seen and loved by God. So I leave you with the question, what are the ways that God is calling you to reflect his character in your career? And when you do that, make him known to the world. Thank you all for your time.